Picture this. You pull your tiny house onto a scenic mountain overlook, you unhook the trailer, step inside, and flip a switch. And right before your eyes, your entire roof slowly rises 4 feet into the air, turning your cramped sleeping loft into a full standing height second floor with panoramic views you can actually stand up and enjoy. No crane, no contractor, no construction crew, just you, a switch, and a home that literally grows taller on command. That is not science fiction. That is a pop-up, pop-top roof tiny house. And in 2026, this expandable roof technology is quietly becoming one of the most game-changing innovations in the entire tiny house movement. If you have ever wanted a tiny house but dreaded the idea of banging your head every time you crawl into your sleeping loft, this video is about to change everything you thought was possible. Before we dive in, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We put out honest, research-backed tiny house content every week, and you do not want to miss what is coming. Now, let us get into it. And stay with me until the end of this video, because I'm going to walk you through the one thing most people get completely wrong about pop-top roofs before they buy, and it could save you thousands of dollars and a whole lot of frustration. You're going to want to hear that. Let's start from the very beginning, because these terms get thrown around a lot and can mean slightly different things depending on who you talk to. A pop-up or pop-top roof tiny house is exactly what it sounds like. It is a tiny house, typically on wheels, designed with a roof section that can be mechanically raised when the home is parked and stationary, then lowered back down when you're ready to move it down the road. Think of it like the roof of a VW camper van, or the classic canvas pop-up tent trailers that have been around for decades, but applied to a full-sized, livable tiny home. The core problem this solves is one that has frustrated tiny house dwellers since the very beginning of the movement. When you build a home on a trailer, you're working with serious height restrictions on public roads. In the United States, the maximum legal travel height without a special wide load permit is 13.5 feet. That means your entire tiny house, from the bottom of the trailer to the very peak of your roof, can only be 13.5 feet tall if you want to move it freely without permits or escorts. That height restriction creates the dreaded loft problem. You end up with maybe 4 feet, sometimes less, of headroom in the sleeping loft. You cannot stand up. You cannot sit up comfortably. You crawl in a bed like you are entering a tent. For some people, that is fine. For a lot of people, it is a deal breaker. The pop-up roof solves this entirely. When you're parked and living in the home, the roof raises to give you full standing height in the upper level. When you need to travel, it comes back down, and your home is road legal at 13.5 feet or under. You get the best of both worlds. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because not all pop-top systems are created equal. There are actually a few different ways builders are solving this engineering challenge, and each one has real-world trade-offs you need to understand. The motorized electric actuator system. This is the top-of-the-line approach and the one that gets the most attention on social media. Companies like Wilderwise Free Homes out of California have built their entire brand around this system. In the Wilderwise 2.0 model, electric actuators, basically precision motors, are mounted inside the wall structure and raise the entire upper roof section at the push of a button. The roof travels from a road-legal 13.5 feet all the way up to 17 feet when fully deployed. That gives you 6 feet of clear headroom in the upper loft, which is enough for most adults to stand upright comfortably. The Wilderwise system also keeps the raised roof fully insulated, weatherproof, and structurally solid. This is not a canvas flap. This is a rigid, panelized wall system that rises as the roof goes up. When it is deployed, you have an actual room up there, not a glorified tent. The Wilderwise 2.0 starts at around $85,000, which for a road-legal, motorized 2-story tiny house is actually not a bad price point when you compare it to the broader 2026 tiny house market. The manual panel system. On the DIY end of the spectrum, some owner-builders have created manual pop-up systems using wooden side panels that bolt into place once the roof is raised. The process works like this. You unbolt the roof from the inside, it flips up on hinges, and then you install solid wooden or composite panels around the perimeter to create the walls of the upper level. Then you secure an interior door at the top of the loft stairs. It is more work than pressing a button, but for a skilled DIYer, it is far more affordable to build. And the result is surprisingly solid and well-insulated. A great example of this approach is the home built by Ben and Nat, featured on the Living Big in a Tiny House channel. Their DIY pop-top converts what would have been a cramped 4-foot loft into a full standing height sleeping space. Their build is often cited as one of the most innovative DIY pop-up designs in the tiny house community. The pop-up loft extension system, a third variation seen on some custom and DIY builds, uses cantilevered loft extensions combined with a localized roof pop-up rather than raising the entire roof line. In this design, the main roof stays largely in place, but a section directly above the loft area rises 2 feet or so, just enough to create standing clearance in that specific zone. One beautifully documented DIY build featured in late 2024 used this approach to create not one, but 2 loft spaces, each with pop-up roof sections. The main loft reached 7 feet at its tallest point, while the secondary loft hit 6 feet 9 inches. Both are built at a height you can actually live in comfortably, and when it is time to travel, both roof sections fold flat back to a legal road height. Let's talk about real numbers, because this is where hype meets reality. What you actually gain in space. A standard tiny house on wheels in 2026 runs anywhere from 150 to 400 square feet on the ground floor. The loft, in a conventional build, adds another 50 to 80 square feet of floor area, but with severely limited headroom. It is essentially a sleeping platform. With a pop-top system, that upper level transforms into a fully functional second story. Pop-top Tiny Homes, LLC, one of the dedicated builders in this space, offers models that expand 4 feet vertically to achieve a full 7-foot ceiling height on the second floor. Their models range from 204 square feet at the smallest up to 544 square feet in their largest configuration. They also emphasize that all of their homes weigh under 10,000 pounds even with the expansion system, which keeps them within towable limits for most heavy-duty pickup trucks. To put the space gain in plain terms, you are converting an unusable crawl space into a room you can actually furnish, decorate, and live in. In the Wilderwise 2.0, the upper floor can fit a queen-size bed, a dedicated home office area, full storage cabinetry, and you can walk around freely. That is a transformation, not just an upgrade. What it costs. Here is where you need to be clear-eyed. According to 2026 pricing data, a standard professionally built tiny house runs between $70,000 and $150,000, depending on size, finish level, and builder. The 2026 average for a mid-range 300 square foot build for a professional builder sits around $75,000 to $90,000. A pop-top or pop-up roof system adds a meaningful premium on top of that baseline. The motorized version, like what Wilderwise uses, starts at around $85,000, which is roughly in line with a premium standard build, but includes the expansion system as a core feature rather than an add-on. For a DIY builder, the cost equation looks very different. A basic DIY tiny house build in 2026 runs between $17,500 and $57,000, depending on how much of the work you do yourself and what finish level you choose. A DIY pop-up roof system, built with hinge panels and manual deployment, adds relatively little to that cost because the mechanism itself, with panels, hinges, latches, and brackets, is not expensive. What costs you is time, skill, and careful engineering. One important note on the DIY route. The pop-up roof needs to be engineered properly. It is a structural component. The roof section needs to seal weather-tight when traveling, resist road vibration without rattling loose, insulate effectively in both positions, and bear the weight of any rooftop loads like solar panels. If you're going the DIY route, budget time for research, build a prototype mock-up, and do not cut corners on the weather sealing. The real-world pros you need to know. Standing height changes everything. This sounds obvious, but it is hard to fully appreciate until you have lived in a tiny house without it. Standing height in the sleeping area is not just a comfort feature. It changes how you feel about space psychologically. A loft you can only crawl into feels like a storage closet. A loft you can stand up and walk around in feels like a bedroom. That distinction matters enormously for long-term livability, especially for couples or anyone planning to use the tiny house as a full-time primary residence. Road legal without permits. This is a significant practical advantage. In the United States, anything over 13.5 feet requires wide load or overheight permits to move on public highways. Those permits cost money, require advanced planning, and in some states require pilot vehicles or highway patrol escorts. A pop-top system that collapses to 13.5 feet eliminates all of that. The Wilderwise can be towed without a special permit once lowered, making it genuinely practical for people who want to move their homes seasonally or follow work opportunities. Design flexibility. Pop-top systems give tiny house designers a vertical dimension to play with that simply does not exist in conventional builds. Want a dedicated home office on the upper floor separate from the sleeping area? Done. Want to put the bedroom downstairs and use the upper level as a studio or meditation space? Also possible. The expandable upper level essentially gives you a bonus room that can be configured to serve whatever purpose matters most to your lifestyle. Natural light and ventilation. Many pop-top designs incorporate windows, skylights, or clear-story openings in the expanded roof section. The Drake Tiny House, designed by Artisan Tiny Homes over in Tasmania, Australia, proving that this trend is catching on globally, features a panoramic skylight and operable windows in the pop-up roof section, flooding the upper loft with natural light and cross-ventilation that a standard enclosed loft could never achieve. This is a detail that substantially improves quality of life in the home, and it is one worth keeping in mind as a design target regardless of where you build. All right, this is the part one promised you at the beginning. The thing most people get wrong about pop-top roofs before they buy or build. And honestly, there are a few things in this category, so pay close attention. Weather sealing is the Achilles heel. This is the big one. The joint between the fixed lower wall structure and the movable upper roof section is a seam. And in a home that gets moved down the road, subjected to vibration, temperature swings, rain, and wind, seems are where problems start. If the weather sealing on your pop-up mechanism is not engineered correctly from the beginning, you will get water infiltration at that joint. And water infiltration in a tiny house with limited ventilation space is a fast road to mold and structural damage. Professional systems like the Wilderwise use purpose design seals and gaskets that compress when the roof is lowered for travel, similar to how a car door seals. On DIY systems, this is where most builders underinvest. Do not underinvest here. Budget properly for quality compression seals. Test them in the rain before you consider the build complete and inspect them seasonally. The mechanism adds weight and complexity. Every pound matters in a tiny house on wheels because your total rig weight determines what vehicle you need to tow it and what roads and bridges you can legally use. A motorized pop-up system, including actuators, wiring, the reinforced roof panels, and the structural elements needed to support the mechanism, adds meaningful weight. Pop-top Tiny Homes, LLC, has made it a point that their homes stay under 10,000 pounds, which reflects conscious engineering to manage this. If you're building your own, calculate the weight budget before you design the mechanism, not after. On the complexity side, a motorized system has electrical components that can fail. Actuators, controllers, and wiring all require maintenance and eventual replacement. A manual system avoids this, but introduces the operational burden of physically deploying panels every time you park. Insulation in both positions. A standard roof is insulated once and stays insulated. A pop-up roof needs to provide thermal performance in both the travel position and the deployed position, which means the insulation detail at the seam and the side panels has to be carefully engineered. In the travel position, you do not want thermal bridging at the joint where the roof sits down on the walls. In the deployed position, the side panels that fill the expanded wall section need to carry their own insulation value, where you will have cold walls in winter and hot walls in summer at exactly the perimeter of your sleeping space. Zoning and certification complexity. Tiny houses already occupy complicated regulatory territory in most of the United States. A pop-top system adds another layer of complexity to that picture. Pop-Top Tiny Homes, LLC, has specifically engineered their homes to meet HUD manufactured home standards, RVIA Recreation Vehicle Industry Association standards, and LEED certification requirements. That level of formal certification is genuinely rare in the tiny house space and reflects serious engineering effort. If you're buying from a builder, ask specifically what certifications their pop-top system carries. If you're building your own, understand that your pop-top will need to meet the structural and weatherproofing standards of whatever code framework your jurisdiction uses for tiny houses. Let us be real and honest about who this design actually serves well, because it is not the right answer for every tiny house buyer. A pop-top tiny house makes the most sense for you if you want a tiny house on wheels as a full-time or near full-time primary residence, not just a weekend cabin or occasional getaway. The standing height benefit matters most when you are actually living in the space day in and day out. It also makes sense if you value mobility but do not want to sacrifice livability to get it. If you know you're going to move your home multiple times a year, whether for seasonal work to follow good weather, or simply because you enjoy the freedom, a pop-top gives you a genuine second story that does not require wide load permits every time you relocate. It is a strong fit for couples or small families where the upper level can serve as a true private bedroom, separate from the shared living space below. Having that physical and acoustic separation between the sleeping zone and the living zone makes a small home feel significantly larger in practice. On the other hand, if you're building a tiny house on a permanent foundation and never plan to move it, the pop-top mechanism does not give you much that a well-designed vaulted ceiling or dormer would not also provide, and potentially at lower complexity and cost. And if you're a minimalist who plans to spend most of your time outdoors and just needs a compact sleeping and cooking space, the added cost and engineering of a pop-top may not be the best use of your budget. Wilderwise Free Homes, Orange County, California. The Wilderwise 2.0 is arguably the most refined production pop-top tiny house available as of 2026. It sits on a 21-foot trailer, uses motorized electric actuators to raise the roof section from 13.5 feet to 17 feet, and delivers a full standing height second floor with a queen bed, home office space, and substantial storage. It comes with a 2-burner cooktop, microwave, full-size refrigerator, and even a dishwasher on the ground floor. Solar off-grid packages are available. The starting price is $85,000. For what you get, that is competitive pricing in the 2026 market. Pop-Top Tiny Homes, LLC. This dedicated builder has made the vertically expandable tiny home their entire identity. Their system expands 4 feet at the flip of a switch, delivering a 7-foot ceiling on both the ground floor and the upper floor. They offer 4 sizes ranging from 204 square feet up to 544 square feet, all under 10,000 pounds. They carry HUD, RVIA, and LEED certifications, which puts them in rare company for the tiny house industry. They now offer financing, which removes a significant barrier for buyers who cannot pay cash for a custom build. The Drake by Artisan Tiny Homes, Tasmania, Australia. Worth a mention here, even though Artisan Tiny Homes is based in Tasmania, Australia, because the Drake shows just how globally this pop-top concept is spreading. This is not a US builder, so if you're stateside, you're not going to walk up and order one, but the design thinking is absolutely worth studying. The Drake measures 29 feet long, 7 feet wide, and 14 feet high. Its pop-up roof in the loft area features a panoramic skylight and operable windows, delivering natural light and ventilation that transform the feel of the upper space. The exterior uses striking black cypress cladding with large windows and French doors. It also includes a wood fireplace, elevated seating area with custom drawers, a pull-out desk, and a fully appointed kitchen. This is the design-forward end of what a pop-top home can look like, and it is proof that the best ideas in this space are coming from builders all over the world. DIY builds. The DIY community has produced some of the most innovative pop-top designs, partly because individual builders are willing to experiment in ways that production companies are not. Ben and Nat's build featured on Living Big in a Tiny House remains a widely cited reference for the manual panel deployment approach. And a beautifully documented dual pop-up loft build from late 2024 shows what is achievable when a skilled DIYer designs specifically around the expandable roof concept from the ground up rather than retrofitting it onto a conventional design. 2 full pop-up loft sections, both at comfortable standing height, both folding flat for road travel. That kind of innovation is happening right now in garages and driveways across the country. Whether you're buying a production pop-top or planning to build your own, here are the honest questions to ask and boxes to check. First, test the mechanism yourself. If you're buying from a builder, do not take anyone's word for it that the system deploys and retracts smoothly. Watch it happen in person more than once, in different temperatures if possible. Mechanisms that work perfectly in a warm showroom sometimes bind in cold weather. Second, inspect the seals. Look at every linear inch of the seam where the movable roof section meets the fixed wall. Ask the builder what type of compression seal they use, how often it needs to be replaced, and what a replacement costs. This is not a glamorous question, but it is the one that determines whether your home stays dry in 5 years. Third, get the weight certified. Ask for documented proof of the total weight of the unit with a pop-top mechanism, with a full water tank, and with a realistic furniture and personal goods load. Compare that number to the towing capacity of your vehicle with a meaningful safety margin, not at the theoretical maximum. Fourth, understand what certifications the home carries. HUD, RVIA, or IRC certification matters for where you can legally park your home, what kind of financing you can access, and how straightforward insurance will be. Uncertified tiny houses face more friction on all 3 fronts. Fifth, ask about insulation performance in both positions. Get the actual R values for the walls, roof, and the seam zone. Make sure those numbers are real tested values, not marketing estimates. Here is the honest bottom line on pop-up and pop-top roof tiny houses in 2026. This is genuinely one of the most clever engineering solutions the tiny house world has produced. It takes the biggest structural limitation of a mobile tiny home, the road height restriction, and turns it into a feature rather than a constraint. When it is done right, you get a road-legal home that travels at 13.5 feet and lives at 17 feet. You get a real second story. You get standing height in your bedroom. And you keep the freedom to move whenever you want without permits or escorts. When it is done wrong, you get water infiltration, weight problems, and a mechanism that binds up in cold weather. The difference between those 2 outcomes comes down almost entirely to how seriously the builder or the DIYer took the engineering of the seals, the structure, and the insulation at that seam. The technology is real. The builders are getting better at it every year, and the market is responding. If you have been dreaming of a tiny house but could not make peace with the loft headroom problem, the pop-top roof might genuinely be the solution you have been waiting for. If you found this video useful, go ahead and hit that like button right now. It helps this channel more than you know, and it helps other people who are researching tiny homes find this content. Subscribe if you have not already, because next week we are looking at another design that is pushing the boundaries of what a tiny house can be. I will see you in the next one.